Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue, your one-stop shop for peace and love on the airwaves, a safe space for people of color and our allies. Join us every week as we have real dialogue with people going through real life. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some. Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue. This is your host, Rebel Queen, and I am here with a very, very special guest today. Today, I have Adria Kitchens with me, and she is a feminine power life coaching specialist. And I'm just so excited because she happens to be my life coach, and this is a person who influenced me and introduced me to major change in my life. And I just would love, I could talk forever, but I would love for her to say hello to everyone out there in podcast land.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. I am so happy to have you here in the studio today. I wanted to bring you in and interview you and introduce you to the folks in the official DFD Hangout. As I mentioned today, content it's a little bit exclusive. This is specifically for the purpose of talking about what you do, introducing the world, and really these folks to what this concept is of this feminine power life coaching. Because I know that most folks know about life coaching, but I don't think people really know that there are different specialties and different areas of focus and why that's important. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, I love what I do.
I can tell, absolutely.
And, you're right. There are limitless numbers of ways to coach people. There are lots of different models out there. Feminine power, I think, is important for me because it really is a transformational coaching process. And so by that I mean it really is about affecting change at the level of identity, right? So really helping us to affect a more, what I would consider like a more permanent change, something that will actually is not just about achieving a goal, but more than just achieving the goal. How can I start to shift the way I show up in the world so that I have power to continue and sustain like what it is I want to achieve and do. And it becomes limitless at that point if I can just start to shift. Because it's not just about the goal. It really is about how I'm showing up and who I'm being.
It is transformational. For me, it's almost, the way I experienced it was I think this is in the Bible, if I can recall, or it's referenced as a scriptural nugget, is that if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man a fish, teach a man how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's important because it really is about us being able to, on a day-to-day basis, navigate life, right?
Yeah.
That, it's nothing wrong with having support. That's not the point. It really is about how I engage and find the power to start to, if it's asking for support, knowing that I need to ask for support, or if it's something I need to change in myself or show up differently or do something differently in my life on an individual basis, then I know to do that. But it really is about being able to sustain that healing.
It is.
Yes.
It is. That's very important. And I guess this was earlier this year that I began my coaching with you. And even last night, I was using those tools. I found myself, and even earlier today, as I was, I'm still using it, I'm still unpacking parts of it, and it's like fresh. I find myself even going back to the earlier modules, and just reapplying, and it's great because it is transformational in the way that it's like you go through a rule book and you learn the instruction, but then as you go back and apply it in your life, you can say, okay, now wait a minute, what page was that on again?
Yeah.
And you can kind of go back and reference the lesson and say, and reconnect with it. And then actually, if you really are trying to change and trying to get the lesson, you can feel it. You can hear. You can get the message.
Because it's like layers. I always look at it's like we're these onions, right? And we pull off the the outer part of it, just the little soft skin, and there's a layer, right? And so the lessons work with each layer, right? Because there's going to be different things in our lives that come up, and I think they come up when we're able to actually handle them, where we're actually able to face them in a place where either there's the support there now, or we're at a different place in our lives. So it's just like layers. So yes, the lesson, you can always go back to the lesson, and you use the same process each time. It's not like you have to change the process.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And it's so important what you said, because it's about being in a different place, because it's the awareness I have now is different. Ooh. Yeah. Because I know I can chuckle. I'm going to chuckle about this forever, because I know it was like an exorcism working with me in the beginning. But I swear I needed that, to go through that process, to be able to ask those questions, to fully understand. Because when I get it, I got it.
Yeah.
I really have it. So let me ask you this. Because I really want to explore this topic. So what, because you do this so well, and I can tell you're very passionate about it. And I, as a person that's very sensitive and that deals with a plethora of things, I know how important it is to get help from somebody that actually loves what they do.
Yeah.
You want that. You really want that. Yeah. And so what made you decide to become a life coach?
That's a funny story, because I never thought I would be a life coach.
Isn't that funny?
Like, it's really by default. It's so funny. When I started off in Feminine Power, I really came to it. I was reading a book of one, and it was this beautiful book, right, about how it was about finding your own identity. And so I ended up calling the author and talking to her, and then I got kind of pulled in to this, and met the founder, Claire Zammit, of Feminine Power, and started just doing all of the things that she was doing, trying to figure out, like flying out where she's out on the West Coast, so going out there to have, be a part of workshops, and really it was where I found my own healing, right? I think the story of a lot of women, especially women of color, right, is having sexual trauma, like in your background, and I did as well. And so there was this point in my life where everything had fallen apart. I was in real estate, so the market had crashed. I lost everything at the time. I had children. All these things happened, but it was at this point that I found Feminine Power. And found, because I was like, okay, I just can't do this anymore. I can't keep going like this. Like, life is not, something's got to change here. And so it was like going through the years of this process of saying, wow. And each time I would go back and work with them, I went deeper and deeper. And I said, I want to know how to do this. And it really wasn't about being a coach. I was like, I just want to know how that worked. Because, it's like most black people, I grew up in the church, and everybody tells you to pray, right? Just pray, and it's going to be okay. I was like, well, okay, praying's not working. Or either, for me, this was the answer to the prayer, right? For me, this was like God saying, no, this is where you need to be.
Right.
And so when I started moved from just being a part of the class to saying, oh, I want to know how to do this, then I was like, okay, I'll just learn this and I'll just use it in what I do. Because, my background's commercial real estate, accounting, and I was working with, business development. So I was kind of using the skills there. But what was happening is I wasn't really passionate about it because the joy for me was when I transformed. And then when I was able to see that in other women, like when I started, because you have to do like all these hours of coaching and all these things to get certified, I was like, oh my God, that's like the best feeling ever to see someone else. Like I always tell people, I kind of describe it as being a midwife, to be able to help support someone else through this process and see them come out on the other side and find some sense of freedom from whatever it was that was holding them back. It's just, there's nothing else like it. So it's like a high, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so, it just brings me so much joy. And so then I just got kind of pulled into it.
Wow.
It's, people were like, "Oh, you should be a coach." I'm like, "Really?" Because I didn't really think I was that good at it. But I'm the one that everybody calls and asks, "What should I do about this? And what should I be doing about that?" And I would talk to them, and I had some women's groups that I would facilitate, and I would have women I was just talking to, like, across the country. And I would facilitate the groups, and they're like, "Yeah, you should really do this." I don't know why you're not doing it on a regular basis. So I really just it was by default.
It was just by default that you just...
It was an answer to a prayer, but it was still... I found my way there.
And so was it the process of healing that made you choose feminine power?
Yes, it really... I haven't found another process, especially for women, that I will say for me, that was more healing. Right? To actually, this whole shift around identity, because I wasn't just focused on the symptom, right? Relieving the symptom of I'm depressed. I can't get, I'm depressed. I can't get where I want to get in my career. I can't find someone else that I want to love. All these other things, financially, I can't get anywhere. I've not found a process that is more transformational for women to actually heal themselves.
Oh my gosh.
And go through. Because that's really what it was. Yeah. It was so healing for me.
I would agree. I would say, at least so far, I mean, I'm still very brand new to all of this. But I mean, I found that this has been very transformational. Yeah. And I think I shared with you that it even opened up some space for me to have healing dialogue with my mom.
Yes, you did.
Yes, yeah. And even just talking with her and just introducing just little parts of the transformation of identity matrix. For her, that was, for me, it was huge to watch her read it and just sit with it.
Yes.
And walk and come away from that with a feeling and understanding that, I've had this traumatic life and I deserve better. Yeah. That was, that's really some powerful stuff.
It is. Well, because you can't actually change anything unless you can name it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just in your subconscious, right? And you're just living life. And what I love about Claire's transformation of identity matrix is that it helps you, like, you look in there, you're like, man, is that really how I'm showing up in the world? And then you realize, yes, that is how I've been showing up in the world. And yet there's gifts to it, right? Because it was a gift at the time. Mm-hmm. When I think about just when I was younger, I needed to be invisible, right? Because that was the safest place for me to be. However, when I become an adult, right, and I need to push things out in the world, being invisible is not the best thing to be. I need to start to shift that. And so what are the gifts about being invisible, right? I'm really able to, I really do have a lot of, I can really observe and see where people are, and I can sense where they are, because that's what I always spent my time doing, just observing people and being quiet and being around them, right? But I really have a huge sense of what their needs, or other people's needs are, but I lack a sense of what mine are. Right. So then my work is to actually understand and know my own needs just as well as I know other people's.
Right. Now, isn't that something, and I'd like to just take a moment to highlight how that is, because lots of people don't understand how, a gift could actually come out of something as traumatic as sexual trauma or childhood trauma, these types of things. But, I guess you can say, even if while I don't believe in the traditional Christian Bible as it stands, I believe in many of the principles. Mm-hmm. I believe that a lot of the principles hold true because I've seen them in operation. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that when there is a force, when there is a purpose for your life, I don't believe that anything can thwart that purpose for your life. And I believe that anything that happens in your life can be used to benefit that purpose. So, for somebody like you and I, if our purpose is to, help people, then having these traumatic experiences in life, having to be in a position where you've had to shrink and be quiet and observe people because it could be your life dependent upon it, your safety, your physical safety, all of these things dependent upon how closely you observe this person, to know how to respond to them. That it served and you had to shut down all types of parts of you in order to do that. I think you can benefit from that by helping other people, right? You can use that to observe. It's like a gift that you kind of can't turn off. You can't turn that thing off.
There are so many things that we cannot control.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the thing is, if it's outside of my control, there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
However, the point would be, where do I find the place where I can heal myself, like inside, regardless of what happened?
Yes.
Right? Because at this point, I need to heal myself. Right? And I need to heal myself so I can actually tell my story and help other people. And even if I have to go back to that person or whoever did it, I can't tell the story unless I'm healed. Right? I can't tell the story unless I can get to the place where I can actually speak up and stop just observing and stop, be able to bring myself out of that other identity and bring myself into the identity that really says, no, I have needs. I have the things that happened were wrong that happened to me, and I need to be able to bring those forward.
So, and it's so true. I posted an article on Facebook earlier today. I read a lot, and but one of the things is I was reading about how they're finding. I can't stop talking about this but they're finding. Doctors are now finding that the leading cause of depression is no longer what they thought to be a chemical imbalance. They're actually also going back to now, they're acknowledging on a wider scale that it's childhood trauma, that lots of people are they're starting to say childhood trauma is a public health crisis. Because they're finding it's contributing to so much disease, and it's a predictor, a common denominator in so much adult illness later on in life. And so when you look at it, there is a realm of what people can control, right? There's a realm of what we can control, what happens to us as an adults, and then as children, there's not a lot that we can control. And when we haven't acknowledged or understood that some of us have actually experienced childhood trauma, then we're not really understanding the full scope of what's happening to us as people, that a lot of us are just really fractured in certain ways. And so that just kind of creates the unhappiness. So I kind of just make this case because I'm saying this to say that there is, lots of people don't believe in conventional medicine. They don't believe in psychiatry, we've had lots of those conversations, about the mental health system and how challenging it is with all the things that need to be fixed. So there's lots of people that don't want to take that track to get help, and they don't have to. Yeah. There's other ways.
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of stigma. Yeah. Especially in our African American communities, but I think regardless of actually ethnicity, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. Yeah. Right? And being able to say that I have a mental health diagnosis or I'm living with a mental health diagnosis as if that's a bad thing. Right? Because when I think about just work and coaching is your capacity to be able to name whatever it is, that it starts your path to healing. Right? If I can name whatever that is, so if I'm depressed, then at least I'm able to name it. So then my healing can come in so many forms. It could come in, I need to take some medicine. It could come in, I need to talk to a psychiatrist. It could come in, I need to talk with a coach. It could come in, I need to have the support and support of my friends and family. Right. It's like multiple, as we always say, multiple pathways. Right. That you can find your healing in multiple ways that you can be supported along the path and along the journey for your healing and in your recovery, and being able to live with a mental health diagnosis. So.
And it's true. It's very true. But I think the first step is to be able to name it.
That is always the first step.
It's the first step is being able to name it, because you won't know. You can't really begin a journey until of finding what it is that you're looking for until you begin to name it. Like for me, a path of identifying something different started with watching that documentary Crazy Wise. Have you seen that?
I have not.
But have you heard about it?
I have.
Okay. It's an amazing documentary.
I will watch it.
I have not been able to stop talking about it since I have seen it. It tells a story. I can't remember Adam's last name, but I believe his first name was Adam. I'm pretty sure about that. I can't remember his last name, but it tells the story of a gentleman named Adam, his descent into mental illness, and then it tells the story of I can't remember this lady's name before her transformation, but her name is Gogo Akaya Isima, and she is a person that is a trauma survivor, and through this experience, she became a shamanic healer.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and she is, and actually, I found her on Facebook. I'm not a starstruck person, and this is not even about that. It is, I want to do that. What did you, find? But it says that she is shamanic wisdom, but it's South African. I'm sorry. There were two studies. One was Zulu and there was something else, but her website is Sangoma Healing, mentorship.sangomahealing.com. And she's actually got a mentorship program that she works with people long term to actually go into this soul healing type of thing. So, for some people, it may be like a life coaching thing. For some people, it may be, this is way more expensive. This is like on my wish list.
You found your path, but that's the point, right? Because when we're inside of all the trauma and all the feelings, we're unable to see our destiny pathway, right? We're unable to hear all the places that the universe, God wants to take us, right? That could be our path to what we want to give to the world, right? And what we want to do,
right? And see, but I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah,
I don't know what I want to do.
I just a step on the pathway.
It's just a step on the pathway, and it's just finding the information and going these tracks. Before I forget, because I just saw an email. You are leveling up your credentials, right? I saw. I saw the look.
No telling.
Because I just saw an email come out about you and several other people that are going into a different phase of life coaching.
Oh, wow. What am I doing? What did I say I was doing?
No, it didn't come from you.
It didn't come from me.
It came from the feminine power coaching folks.
Oh, cool. Look at that.
Oh, you didn't see that?
I haven't seen my own.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, here it is. Okay, well, it talked about how Jan, Adria, Debbie, and more launched their work.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yes.
You know what it came out.
Yes, and it's going into... Yeah, here, I can't believe it.
That's exciting.
Yeah, you didn't see
I didn't
this.
check email, apparently.
Right, so I know that you were going into something different. I thought that you were getting ready to step into a different arena.
I am. So, well, the blessing for me is that the Feminine Power group called me back. Right, to support them in some coaching with women who are going through the program, which for me is kind of an amazing thing, right? I was like, really? So really my title is more like a program specialist or a global ambassador. And so, because we work with women all over the world, so it's really exciting to be able to talk to. I talked to a woman just a couple of like a month ago who's in Greece. I was like, this is so exciting.
Oh my gosh!
To really be but what's interesting to me is that all over the world, really, women, we all have the same issues,
the same story.
We have the same stories, the same issues,
same
things come up, and we're having the same kind of things that we need to shift. So it's a universal kind of, I guess, just a kind of a universal thing that we need to start to shift in the world. And I know that, I mean, my passion is women, but women of color especially, because I really want to see how do we not just shift on just a person by person basis, but like how do we shift the entire identity or the soul of a nation of people, right? What does that look like? Because I was at an event the other night and someone talked about decolonizing the black mind, and I was like, that's what it is. It's like, because our identities as black people needs to be, we actually have to take on a new identity. We've been living, right, in a colonized world, full of internalized racism, right, and not just our trauma, but you think about the, really kind of in our history and ancestry, like all the trauma that we carry, and yet there's that resilience, because that's what it's about. It's not that there's resilience in our identity too. However, when you have all those layers, you can't see it.
We can't see it. Even our activism is colonized, because even when we look at the Black Panther Party, look at what the contents of Soul on Ice is, what Eldridge Cleaver wrote, the concepts that he introduced in that book, and how male dominant that party came across as. Meanwhile, it was really female dominant. It was really more women, there doing it. I was reading a comment, I cannot remember, I think Stephen Labossiere. Stephen Labossiere is a popular commentator, a relationship expert. One of the things he said, he's on my Facebook friend list. One of the things he said is about changing. He talks to women so much. I used to really struggle with how much he harps on women. But he said that one of the reasons why he focuses on women so much is because the impact that women have on the world is so much greater. You can heal one man and he'll reach a few women. You heal one woman and she'll heal her whole community. She'll heal everybody around her. Yes. Her reach is further. And it's so true, the power that women have. So I think that it's true. I think that the fact that within our community, the fact that patriarchy exists, the fact that we don't see that there's colonized minds in that. All of us, we don't see that. We don't see how we've internalized some of those things and how we oppress women and marginalize women in our own community. Right. And so if we just kind of relax that a little bit, I think we can kind of let women rise to the power that we should be, because African queens are certainly not damsels in distress. No, they were not. They were fierce warriors. They were fierce warriors.
Right,
yes.
right. But and the interesting thing is that we need to be able to tell that narrative. Right?
Yes.
That's what Deidre Hawkins always says, right?
Yes.
It's being able to tell that story and tell that narrative, and start to rewrite some of the narratives that we're carrying around.
Right.
Right. This idea that I must be quiet all the time, and I can't show up fully as who I am, as this bold woman who has power, and especially in a system of power like patriarchy, you can't.
Because right. that bold woman with this power has really been rebranded as the angry black woman, because she's living under generational trauma.
Right. Especially inside of the power structure that we're currently
absolutely,
in.
Absolutely. Right. So breaking free of these things is what makes it so important. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have you in our community, because what folks don't know is that Adria is going to be offering coursework.
I am.
Yes. Oh gosh, and I cannot wait. See, and this is just overcoming some of the challenges of getting people to really grasp what we're doing with the official DFD Hangout and begin that communication. But she's going to be offering coursework, this feminine power life coaching. Y'all, I'm trying to tell y'all to come get. This is the kind of work you need to come get. This is the kind of coursework you really need to come get. I can tell you.
Well, I agree with you on that.
Because y'all just don't even know. I can't even begin to explain what kind of mess I was. I can't even begin to explain what kind of mess I was. And just to be able to start to name some of these things and to unravel and what this coaching has done for me. And I'll say, you know, because I'm a person living with a diagnosis. I have childhood trauma. I talk about that all the time. And what it has done for me is it is just taking me on this journey of understanding myself. So, you know, don't nobody else tell me I have a diagnosis because the white man is telling me, no, stop it. Just don't do that no more. Oh my God, that is the most frustrating thing to hear. You just think that because the white man is telling you, you got to die. No, I have a diagnosis because I have a lived experience, and I have things that happen that I know I have to cope with. And so there's something missing. And what this has brought present to me is that in Western culture, we do refer to it as mental illness, but in other cultures, like I talked about with Gogo and Seema, you know, in other cultures, this is a woman, she's an African-American woman, but she's this healer now because in other cultures, they don't look at it as a mental illness. They look at trauma as a soul. It's like pieces of your soul leave when you go through trauma. And so when you are when you going through a mental health crisis, it's because your soul needs to be retrieved.
That's beautiful.
It's the most beautiful and logical thing I have ever heard, you know, and so to go through a soul retrieval process and to kind of be united with, I mean, to me, that's a fascinating thing. And that's something that I would love to do, you know. So for me, it doesn't have to be a process where, you know, do I have to take meds sometimes? If it means the difference between me having a criminal record, between me checking out and doing some really, you know, yes, I have to take it sometimes. But, you know, other times I find that this spiritual path is more therapeutic. It's more healing. It's more helpful. It brings me into a place that I can't even begin to articulate. Right. And I would never have even begun to understand that had I not begun to address some of these issues. And life coaching gave me permission to forgive myself. It took away the sting of me blaming myself. It's not something that something is wrong, you know, like, oh, you did this, or, you know, you think this way. It's natural for me to think and do everything that I did.
Yeah, and you know, what I love about Feminine Power, you're talking about retrieving parts of your soul, because that's what it really is, reclaiming these parts of myself, right, that are buried under all of these experiences and beliefs I've created about myself that actually are not true, right?
They come from experiences.
Right, they come from all these experiences.
Of other people.
Of what they say, and taking it in personally. Right, we take it on, we hold on to it. The trauma causes us to hold on to it, and really being able to, how do I reclaim that piece of myself? Because that's what it's about. Yeah. Right. At the end of the day, how do I find the place where I can empower myself and find that piece of myself? Because I was telling somebody that I have, you know, I'm on this journey of what does it really mean to fall in love with Adria? Like we talk about, you know. What is the commandment that we should love others as we love ourselves? But I said the issue is that we actually don't know how to love ourselves, which is why we don't love other people, right? In the right way. So what does it really mean to fall in love with myself?
That's right.
Right. To say, so I have to ask myself, like, what is it, like, I don't know how to do this because I have never been taught. So what does it mean to fall in love with you, Adria? Like every day, it's like, please tell me, what does it really mean for me to love you in the way you desire to be loved? So if I want someone else to love me like that, right, I need to be willing to do that for me. Like, I want them to ask me too, what does it really mean? I don't want them assuming. I need to be able to know that. And I can only know that if I can really dig those pieces of myself up that can really be empowered to say, yeah, this is what I really need. This is what I really desire. This is what I really want in life.
And you know that it was difficult for me to get through that process because what you unsurfaced for me was that even the child me didn't trust the adult me.
Right.
Because the adult me had ignored this child voice for so long. And
Right. Well, because it's subconscious, right? We don't know. We've been just living our lives, and we actually don't realize we're so disconnected from these younger parts of ourself. Yep. And really, it's being able to mentor, right, these parts of ourselves to adulthood and recognize that, oh my God, like, why should I trust you? You don't show up for me. You keep putting other people ahead of me. You say
don't ask me what I need.
You don't ask me what I need.
Yeah.
Right? We are so disconnected from these deeper parts of ourselves, and then that is why we're not able to show up in the world and give other people what they need truly, right? Because we don't actually know how to do it for ourselves. And that's the power of it, right? It's being able to look at it, as Claire always says, having this growth-oriented perspective on life, that everything can be used for our own growth. Everything. It doesn't make it right. It's not excusing other people's behavior. It's not even excusing our own our own behavior that might be considered bad, right? It's really looking at it to say it's a developmental, that in a developmental approach, everything can be, whether it's an opportunity or something that we consider a challenge, can be used for our own growth and for us to get to the next level of who we are.
It is so important. It is the most important thing. And it was going through that process, because you kind of had me really promise myself that I would begin to go through this process of learning to establish that rapport and give with that inner child. And I would give her what she needed. And that's what I've been doing. I just posted something on Instagram the other day, and I titled it said, "Do you ever check in with yourself and ask, what do I need?"
Exactly.
and I commented, I commented, I've been struggling with depression. I always struggle this time of year. It's been progressively worse since my brother passed in 2015. Finally got so bad that I decided to confront everything that was deep-rooted in me and that contributed to the depression. I started healing from my past traumas. I finally exhaled and asked myself what I needed. And I discovered that there is almost nothing better than giving myself what I need. I am exhaling more deeply now. I just needed to let go. And I made it, and I purposefully framed it in I statements because it's transformational.
Yeah.
I go from this grief and struggling to just letting go. Literally, and not in any way to minimize grief, struggle, depression, pain, trauma, but it is literally will eat you alive to hold on to those things, and try some of those things. There comes a point where all the anxiety and the but what if will come up, and you have to say, and it's okay. And if that inner child says, but what if, and this could happen, that can happen, we'll deal with it, and I'll take care of you. That's the answer.
That is so key, because I know that when I was going through early on my process of healing and feminine power, I remember I was although I was an adult, grew up in the church, I would say that, yes, I love God, I'm all about it. But what I recognize is that this younger part of myself was angry.
That's right.
With God, just angry. Just like, why would you let this happen to me? Like all these things. But I didn't realize that. So it's hard for us to hold, I'm supposed to be in church and I believe this, and then this other part of me is angry, because it almost seems like it's wrong, right? That you're feeling this. And yet what we have to be able to do is be able to hold all those parts of ourselves. And and let it be okay. Say, okay, it's okay. Because guess what? I'm here for you.
Right.
Because whether you think God is here for you or not.
That's right.
I'm here for you.
I'm here.
I got you. And then you can get that part of yourself to the point where it's like, oh, I get it. I was in this place where I was hurt and I couldn't see. Right, because it's our job now, right, as the adult, if once we can get to that place to really hold all the parts of ourselves, all the parts that we're like, oh my God, yes, I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not supposed to be profanity on
No, you're fine. You need to listen to this more often, because you should hear the stuff we be saying on here. Woo.
Like, I am pissed off.
Yeah.
Right? I'm angry with everybody.
Yeah.
And I just need to be able to get it out.
Yeah.
Right? And talk about it.
And just talk about it. Yeah. And that's all it is, really. And I just said that the other day, really. I do have a trigger, and it's shitty people. That's what it is. I can be totally great. You can talk to somebody about me, and one person will tell you, "Oh my God, she's awful. The lady is crazy. Don't get her mad. She's crazy." And then another person, "Ty, are you kidding me? She's the sweetest thing in the world." They'll be like, "Oh my God, no. It's amazing, the experiences." Yeah. But at the end of the day, it is true. Realizing it is a journey, and if you just begin, it is a daunting task. Yes. It is a really daunting task, but there is no pain greater than running from it. Yes. You think that you're avoiding the pain by running from it, but you're really magnifying it, and you're just prolonging the chaos. You're staying in this chaos.
It seems like you're going to fall apart, and I think that's what happens for people. I can say that was my experience. It actually appears to you as if you face it, that you're going to actually completely implode. But you don't. And that is completely scary.
Well, but you know what though, and you may, because I did. I imploded.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But
if imploding is not okay.
Right.
That's what I'm right.
Because how do you rebuild on top of something new? How do you create something new?
Yes.
Sometimes that's what it takes. Nobody really wants to do that voluntarily.
Yes.
But nobody wants to do that voluntarily. But sometimes that's exactly what it requires. And for me, although I can't say, "Oh my gosh, that was a great experience. It was a gift." I am never going to say that. I am never going to say those words. I will say that, I see why it happened the way it did. Because I just kept going until I hit the daggone brick wall.
Yeah, that's what usually happens.
Yeah, hit that brick wall.
That usually happens to all of us. We go until we can't go anymore.
I couldn't go anymore, and my brain said, "If you don't sit your ass down and deal with this, I'm just going on strike." And it just stopped. My brain said, I'm not going to do nothing else until you deal with this. And that's exactly what happened. So and so just being a part of all of this is been one of the most transformative things in my life. And I can't wait until we can get this content offered So listen, I wanted to try to get this rolled out in January, but again, we just got to overcome a couple of challenges within the community and before I can get that content rolled out. But I do want to start working with you on developing, getting it into a course format for you out there. So that's why I want to encourage people to come out and join the official DFD Hangout. We're almost out of time. We are out of time, really. But before we go, I just want to ask you, do you want to leave us with any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I am a believer that we have the power within us, right? And if we are willing to look at ourselves first, instead of looking externally at everybody else, we can look at ourselves first, that we will find that power to overcome even the external things that are happening, right? It really is about who we are being on a daily basis, how we show up, what am I willing to take responsibility for, even when it's not my fault. Because it's not about fault. It's about what will give me the power to move forward. Because they could still be wrong. But what's going to give me the power to move forward? And then if I need to say something to somebody, I need to be in a place where I can hold that space and that power. And I can even talk to them and have empathy. But I can't hold any of that if I'm still stuck. So,
yes.
Those are my thoughts.
So I'm going to invite everybody once again to come join us on www.officialdofd.com so that you can be a part of this community. For the sisters, I need you to come get this feminine life coaching, this feminine power life coaching in your life. I can't even begin to explain how powerful that is. And I even have something for the fellas too. We have Dr. Obari Cartman on board, and he's going to be offering some of his coursework as well. So I can't even begin to tell y'all how powerful this is to me. and what my intent is for this community. So I hope that you all join us. Every Sunday, we have new episodes posting at 3 o'clock. So join us every week at OfficialDofD.com. Thanks for joining, y'all. See you next week. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our show. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. at OfficialDofD.com. Follow us on social media at OfficialDofD. Your dynamic, your dialogue.